Okay, we have the Alfa Romeo here. Bit of a noisy old diesel, this one. A lot of these diesels nowadays are obviously noisy on the outside because that's just the way they are, but you get in on a BMW, you don't hear the engine. And this one you do, you're very aware of it. There's a lot of noise coming from this car. A lot of noise. And I bring that up because it's quite unpleasant. It sort of seems to dominate the driving experience. Steering on this car is quite heavy. It's heavy, but at the same time it's nicely responsive. It does feel quite certain, and the car does respond to the steering very nicely. There's not a lot of bouncing around like you get with some cars, that sort of boating effect. I do like the steering on this, although if anything it may be a little bit wooden, a little bit sort of anaesthetized, but I have to say it doesn't quite feel like you're connecting to the wheels because the steering's so heavy. It almost feels like it's being governed by another force, which it probably is, because as you accelerate with the front wheel drive, it does pull. Anyway, this instrument cluster here is not particularly the best layout. It's set in tunnels, it's set in tubes, which distracts your ability to perceive the information. So I don't like that one personally, and I think many people will agree with me. It's just too congested, and it's at an angle. It doesn't face what you're looking at. So that's a flunk as far as I'm concerned. The central console I think looks a bit naff, to be fair. In a way it reminds me of the Mini, except for the big dial. Controls here are pretty simple, pretty accessible. This vision on this car, it's got nice big side mirrors, which is rare for a small car. Rear view vision is a very small window, but it's not obstructed by the headrests too much. The driving position of this vehicle is it's okay. It's not the most comfortable seats I've ever sat in, to be fair, but it's okay. Everything seems to balance out alright. It's quite a hard car to drive this. I'm going along now and I'm very aware of bumps in the road, etc, etc. This car has a very strange feeling, and it affects everything, including the steering. It's a small car, it's a light car within reason, but I feel like I'm driving down the road now and I've got 10 people in the car, and I've got a load of luggage on the roof, and the boot is full of lead weights. It feels extraordinarily heavy, and I'm finding myself having to push the steering rather than turn the steering wheel. So driving this car around the town, nipping around back streets and stuff, is actually going to be a very tiring thing. This is not a car for that, which is unusual. It's a very tiring car to drive. I'm not too sure why that is. I mean, where's this heavy feeling coming from? So I'm not too impressed with that, but the only good side of it is it makes you feel very certain and sure when you're on the roads. It's certainly a strange combination, this car. Heavy steering, car feels heavy, big chunky lumpy diesel. Dashboard's a little bit plasticky, but it doesn't feel hollow and insincere. It doesn't feel glib. Feels quite solid. It does feel a solid car, this, but it feels way too heavy and it's not comfortable. Considering this is a small wheel based hatchback vehicle, I cannot understand why it feels so heavy. It's quite bizarre. It's certainly not an energetic vehicle. Now, going over a few bumps here, boom, 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 boom. It's like driving with no suspension at all. It's very uncomfortable and it's very unusual. This is a car with the qualities of something much heavier and larger. I'm just going to do a brief 0 to 60 test to just give you an idea what this car goes like. 3, 2, 1, go. Well, it's a strange one to review, this, I have to say. And I don't like the brakes on it too. There's a big lag and then they suddenly come on and they're very grabby. I would suggest, if you're thinking about buying one of these, you most certainly need to take it for a long test drive. It's got a lot of driving attributes which are very unpleasant. Personally, I don't like this car at all.